you seen anything like that? This guy's pretty good.
G'day and welcome back to another episode of The Casuals, another episode, everything going on inside the world of MMA. What a weekend, UFC 298, an absolutely ripper card with some ripper fights and an upset of the ages. I thought an upset of the ages. Volkanovski is no longer the featherweight king. Ilia Topuria with the second round fucking flatline. He was near perfect. His combo, a massive right hand that cleanly caught Volkan, put him to sleep like a fucking anything you want to give him. He just went flat out and straight to sleep. And I didn't see that coming in. I mean, it was a thing to process. I was fucking rooting for Volk as much as you could root for anyone. And it just didn't come to fruition, which is obviously disappointing. But that 35-year-old curse once again hits back. I think it's 2 in about fucking 25 or something is the record. And Tyrone Woodley is the only guy with those 2 wins. It's 170 pounds below the record. If you're over 35 years old, is not in your favor at all. And that's where all that the Volk in his old man costume and shit all came from, was because of that big curse as such. And the curse hit Volk and claimed another victim. But first off, we'll start where I started watching the card. And this was where Justin Tafa injured his knee about a day out from UFC 298. And his brother, Junior Tafa, subs in to verse Marcos Rogero de Lima. And I mean, Junior Tafa, his legs really just weren't there. Just absolutely punished through leg kicks. It was just demolish. He leg kicked him the fuck out of first round, and he probably could have won if he kept going to it. He knocked him, I think, as well, De Lima, and he went to the ground weirdly in round 1. He probably could have easily got a round 1 finish if he kept attacking the legs and kept just putting pressure forward on Tafa. But he waited till round 2, and the leg kicks were the end of him. He got hit with one square on that calf again, Junior Tafa, and went down. And then it was a bit of ground and pound, but nothing too heavy from De Lima, as he knew the fight was over already, and he got the win in round 2 there. But full credit to Junior Tafa for stepping in on a day's notice. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due on that one. Although he didn't perform how he would have liked, it was an opportunity that he knew he had to take in. If he gets that win over De Lima, it's a huge step in his heavyweight journey. I mean, De Lima's in 15th. If he beats the 15th guy, he probably becomes ranked, and that is a huge for a guy like Junior Tafa, who's coming up the ranks at the moment. The next fight, Mackenzie Dern taking on Amanda Lemos. A ripper fight. This is as good as you get for a female fight in UFC. The striking, the grappling, another thing, was out of this world. It was as good as you get. But the funniest thing was when Mackenzie Dern she's one of the women in the UFC that everyone looks at, that she's probably the best looking out of everyone in the UFC. And Bobby Green was on the broadcast when they were doing weigh-ins. Dern walks out in her undies, bikini, and whatever the fuck you call it. And Bobby Green chucks out a good old sheesh when she walks across the stage. This guy, I mean, fuck, doesn't give a fuck. He's on UFC 300, so it'll be funny to see him in his press conferences and things like that. But it was a funny moment from the weigh-ins. But in this one, the leg kicks, once again, it was the big story from the weekend. The leg kicks that Lemos was throwing at Mackenzie Dern were really struggling. She was really slowing down. She was getting smashed kind of the whole first round. About halfway through, she got a takedown, held Lemos on the ground, and everyone knows her Brazilian jiu-jitsu is out of this world, Mackenzie Dern. And if you get on the ground, you're in big strife, and you can get finished pretty easily. But the second round, Lemos could have easily been a 10-8. It was just the only thing was she finished on the bottom at the end of the round. A good last minute or so from Mackenzie Dern, but nearly finished Dern. I would have called it nearly a 10-8, except for that ending where Dern was I don't know, on top and in control and not kind of fighting for her life at one stage. So I gave it it's about 1-1 now in this first round, second round, gave to Lemos, but this third round, Dern drops Lemos in round 3 and is on top for pretty much the whole round. A really, really close fight. I gave the decision to Mackenzie Dern, and I posted a video on the Casuals Instagram. Go check that one out. And I thought Mackenzie Dern was quite robbed in this one. I gave her round 1 pretty easily. No damage from Lemos around 1 in the first half. Second, she gets a takedown. This second half of that round 1, she gets a takedown, gets a good top mount, and is in control that whole half of round 1. And through the no damage from Lemos in the first half of that round, I gave that one to Dern easily. Second round, Lemos demolished Dern. A 10-9, could have been 10-8. Just Dern fought back at the end, which probably saved her. But round 3, Mackenzie Dern gets a takedown and drops Lemos. I mean, I don't know how this fight didn't go Mackenzie Dern's way, and it would have been an unreal win for her from the 7th, fighting the 4th strawweight. I mean, a big step in her title comeback and title fight, wanting to get back to the top. A very tough decision, but I gave it to Dern every day of the week, and I don't know, the judges just really didn't see it that way, which I'm not sure how. Now, moving on to the main card, Anthony Hernandez took on Roman Kopylov. Hernandez was simply outstanding, just dominated on the ground. There was a stat that went up on the screen that 20 in a row Kopylov hasn't been taken down. 20 attempts at takedowns, hadn't been taken down once. Hernandez was absolutely unreal. He took round 1, nothing really happened, but he was working more, looking for more takedowns, looking to strike. It was on the front foot most of the time. And the submission in round 2 he got was unreal. He gets the takedown, gets the back of Kopylov, and is fighting this massive rear naked choke for pretty much about a minute. He's trying to squeeze, he's just squeezing the chin of Kopylov, and that didn't work out. And then he lets go of that rear naked choke, and then Kopylov takes a second to relax, and that second brings his chin up. Hernandez gets under there in a rear naked choke, puts Kopylov out, and gets the win for Hernandez, which is unreal for his middleweight journey. He's sitting at 15th at the moment, so it'd be good to see him go up into that middleweight division, which is no doubt a really strong division. But that grappling display was simply unreal. I mean, any win through submission over any Russian guy really looks to me as like, fuck, that's a pretty good win from Hernandez in that one. Moving on to the good fights, we get these 4 in a row fucking bangers on this 298 card. I'm going to fucking butcher this. Merab Dvalishvili from Georgia versus Henry Cejudo. Merab, round 1, really close. I could have gone either way with round 1. Merab got the first takedown to close out the round. It's surprised going into the fight that Cejudo was such an underdog. I mean, a double champ, fucking triple C, whatever you want to call him. And I thought he was really fucking value going into this one. And given that close loss to Aljo in a split decision for the belt, I thought there was a lot of value in him, but I mean, Merab proved me wrong. Round 2 and 3 was just sublime from Merab. He was taking down, controlling the whole round, picks him fucking up off the ground, takes him over to Zuckerberg, puts him in a submission attempt. Just so much shit was going on, and Merab dominated round 2 and 3 and gets a pretty simple decision. I gave it to Merab here. Round 2 and 3 dominated. Wasn't too sure on the final counts, but I'd say 30-27 maybe, and 29-28 to Merab in that one. It was an unreal display. And when he fights Sean O'Malley or Chito Vera for that bantamweight belt, I think he absolutely pumps either of them. His grappling and striking. The only worry was there was a big left hand that hits from Cejudo that hit Merab. And as well, Chito Vera, I saw a clip the other day, hit Merab with that same left hook, rocked both times. So that is an area of concern that I'd be looking at. I just know just a little just a tiny, tiny hole in the near perfect game of Marab and an unreal win on the weekend. Moving on, Jeff Neal taking on Ian Machado Gary. This was boring. I mean, boring as fuck as it gets. I mean, Ian Gary, he talks all the shit in the world. And Jeff Neal, I mean, it was a weird fight. Jeff Neal was trying to go forward, but then wasn't going forward. Ian Gary was staying at a distance the whole entire time. Just so boring. Gary was running the whole time of the fight. And do you think that with how much shit he talks and how much he is confident in himself to be running around the ring, keeping a fucking distance and not fighting a real fight with Jeff Neal. I mean, he's just fighting. I mean, you can fight for wins, but it's just not good for fans. And for a guy that fans already fucking hate, I mean, Ian Gary should be going out there looking for something good and looking for people to really gravitate towards him, because no one is liking him at the moment. Just the way he acts and what he does and what he's done to Jeff Neal and the things he put him through, the t-shirts with the jail picture, what do you call it, whatever the fuck you call it, making t-shirts, making profit off his downfall. I mean, it just kind of tells to the kind of guy that this guy seems to be, and I don't know, gets the win here in this one with a split decision. So if Jeff Neal put a little bit more pressure on this front foot, I know it was hard with Ian Gary running around the whole time, but I mean, if he puts that little bit of pressure on, probably round 3 was the round to go. He could have got that decision. It was pretty close, but I don't know, Ian Gary just had the more strikes, kept the distance, and I mean, it was easy to keep the distance in this fight. His length, his kicks were pretty on point. But I mean, a boring fight nonetheless. Moving on to a banger that was Rob Whittaker taking on Paulo Costa. I mean, just a stand-up battle for the ages. It was awesome. This fight is as good as it gets. Just a big stand-up battle. The kicks from Costa and both Whittaker were doing work on each other's legs. They were getting pounded. Both legs, no doubt, were ripped up. And the head kick at the end of the first round by Paulo Costa, I no idea how Whittaker stays standing at that one. He gets a massive fucking sweeping heel to the face. Whittaker, you can see he gets the stiff legs. He starts walking around like he's on stilts. And I don't know if there's 10 seconds more, Costa gets the finish. There was about 4 or 5 seconds left, and it saved Whittaker as much as anyone's been saved before. He got saved by the bell on that one and got the win over Paulo Costa in this one. Round 2 was pretty good, though. Rob just demolished the outstriking, the leg kicks, and just striking was too good. And I hope that Rob, after this fight, gets a call up to fight for the belt next. I mean, if Izzy's not coming back, I think Rob's the guy to go to. A rematch against DDP would be a cracker, I think. I hope Whittaker takes that one in the rematch with DDP. I think he said he wins 9 out of 10 time against DDP, just caught him on a bad day. And I do believe that. I think that Rob is better than DDP, better than Strickland. I think he's up there, and everyone knows that one guy that he can't get is Israel Adesanya. Just he's too slick, too good, and too fast for Rob in his previous 2 fights against him. But no doubt Rob deserves something up the top there. I mean, Strickland could be the go next. It works within the middleweight rankings that he's the guy to fight next, and I think Rob would get the job done there. But time will tell with that one. Moving on to the main event, that was Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, this was pure fucking depression. Volkanovski losing this fight. I mean, I was watching it. He was walking out, and I had my head in my shirt. I couldn't watch. I was so nervous. I don't know why. I had confidence in Volk, but I mean, Topuria proved me wrong of why I should have been nervous. The massive right hand, left hand, both of them were fucking cannons. But I mean, Volkanovski, round 1, they were both feeling each other out pretty well. It was a pretty slow fight. But the one thing I saw in round 1 and 2 was Volkanovski wasn't moving forward at all. He wanted to stay off the cage. as much as possible. And when he got to the cage, I mean, he got KO'd, flattered. So it was a weird tactic to be moving backwards against a guy with that power that Topuria has. I mean, moving forward is also risky, but moving backwards, getting pressured against the cage is not what you want to be doing against a guy like Ilia. I mean, I thought he would have gone to the ground a bit more. Volkanovski has fought Islam Makhachev, the probably most decorated, him and Khabib, most decorated wrestlers in the fucking sport. He grappled with him, nearly out-grappled him. I mean, if I'm Volk going up against Topuria, who is known for his unreal knockout power, and previously, I mean, submissions. He hasn't had submission. He had one submission so far in the UFC. But the wrestling of Volk was probably a place that I would have gone to first. I mean, get off the feet, get on the ground. I mean, out-grapple him. He can out-grapple Islam. I think he can out-grapple Ilia Topuria pretty well. I mean, I would have been going to the ground, going for takedowns, and been stuffing that punch as much as possible and been hoping for a submission. I mean, I called it last week. I called that Volk would be winning this one by submission, but not going to the ground doesn't give you chances to do this. Staying in the air with this guy, with this punch power, was not the way to go, and it all fell down right in front of Volk's eyes for that one. Just absolutely shattering in a fucking good performance by Ilia, an unreal right hand, left hand. But we'll see what happens next. Hopefully the rematch in Spain happens sooner rather than later. Would love to see Volk back once again and hopefully reclaiming that belt and shutting up that over 35-year-old curse. But storyline from the weekend, Henry Cejudo retires for the second time. Retired in 2020, probably near the top of his fucking peak. Double champ at the time and retires for some reason. I'm not sure why. Probably wanted to leave the sport on a high note, but comes back, loses to Aljo, loses to Merab. Now he's left again, and he's, I don't know if his legacy's kind of fully gone, but he definitely wouldn't have been happy with how he came back and how he went out, really. Mark Zuckerberg, the fucking robot, walked out Israel Adesanya. Didn't walk out Israel Adesanya. Trained with Izzy. Trained with Volk. Walked out with Volk. I mean, the robot was he was shaking midair. He was shaking absolutely nothing. Grabbing some clothes that weren't fucking there. He was just standing there looking fucking odd as you get. An odd fella. And I think that's a curse. There's a Zuckerberg curse. No doubt is a thing. I mean, Volk, get that guy out of your corner. He can't be there for the next fight. Get someone better. I'm sure maybe get Elon. Elon will get in there and really fucking fire him up and hopefully the tail turns and he gets the win over Topuria in a rematch. But stories from the weekend, UFC 300 main event has been announced. Fucking banger. Alex Pereira take on Jamala Hill in a light heavyweight belt fight in the main event. I mean, you'd expect a little bit more. There was so much about how big this fight was going to be and how big this card was going to be. And I don't know if it's disappointed, but it hasn't got me as rock hard as you can be. There's things in there that, I mean, seem really exciting. The main card is stacked to the shit. I think Dana's adding a few more fights to this card. I think maybe one or two, hopefully two good ones. Because at the moment, I mean, 300, big expectations. And at the moment, no doubt good fights, but not up to the scratch that I'd really hoped for. And in this one, Leon Edwards was apparently offered 3 fights for UFC 300. He said yes to all 3. And all 3 fighters said no. Khamzat Chimaev, fucking Shavkat Rakhmonov, and one more in there that said no to the fight. I mean, I really don't get why you're saying no to a fight for a title fight. I mean, anytime, anywhere, these guys should be going for belts and should be putting themselves first and trying to fight for this belt as much as possible, but it just, I don't know, must have fell through somehow, because not wanting to fight for a belt at UFC 300 You got to be pretty scared, and you got to be pretty, I don't know, not ready or as ready as you should be. I mean, to not be taking title fights is a big, big mistake for anyone, I think. I think you got to be taking anything that comes towards you these days. And if you don't, you could be to the back of the line. You could be gone again. You could be way, way back and not be getting one of those title fights for a fair bit to come. I think you got to take them when they come. And if you don't, you're putting yourself really, really short. But this weekend, UFC Fight Night in Mexico, two absolute rippers on the main event and co-main event. The co-main, Yair Rodriguez taking on Brian Ortega for the second time. Yair got the win over Ortega last time with a dislocated shoulder of Ortega. I think he had him in an arm bar or something, and Ortega lifted himself up and just ripped his shoulder straight out of a socket. And same with Brendan Moreno versus Brendan Royval. Royval dislocates his shoulder as well in this fight. Moreno gets the win in that one. So two fights that have happened before. We got two seconds to the main event and co-main event, both ending in dislocated shoulders. So you can take both of those fights with a absolute grain of salt, and definitely fighters that have changed. I'm rooting for Brian Ortega in this one. I don't think the fella has got a win in a little while. So rooting for him over Yair, but we know how good Rodriguez is. We know how close Ortega got to being featherweight champ with that submission on Volk. Volk just different, built different, gets out of that. But Yair demolished by Volkanovski. So not sure where Ortega will go with this one. I'm guessing he'll go to the ground and try and outgrapple Rodriguez. But it'll be interesting to see with that one. Brendan Moreno versus Brendan Royval. Royval backing up pretty quickly after he's lost to Pantoja. Brendan Moreno looking to get back to that number one spot in the flyweight division. And I think he'll get another chance. I think he's better than Royval. He's striking. He's more powerful. And I think a good knockout win for Moreno in that one. And then one of the fights on the card as well, we have Raja in the bantamweight division taking on Ricky Turcios. I mean, Roses Jr. is expected to win any fight that he kind of gets into now. I think Dana should be putting him in all these fights that he needs to win and is expected to win, because you want this guy, this young fella, to be putting up the best performances possible to gain more traction and to kind of blow up into the superstar that he can be, especially only being about 19 years old still. Is a big, big prospect and is protected by Dana White. No doubt about that. But that's about it for this episode of everything inside the world of MMA. Make sure you follow Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. But until next time, don't be casual and follow for more.